Each one of us deals with disappointments from time to time. And in my case, to my great disappointment, and due to our crazy schedules, I was unable to interview Professor Thuli Madonsela for this morning's session. So if you've noticed a change in the agenda, I had to ask my colleague, Kudzayi Ziso, to step in for me. In fact, I think I did her a huge favor. Kudzayi is a portfolio manager in our Portfolio Solutions team and has been with Momentum for the last 13 years. She is passionate about the portfolios the team looks after, the society we live in, and how to invest for a sustainable future in South Africa. She is also a huge fan, like the rest of us, of Professor Thuli Madonsela and will be having a conversation with her. Professor Madonsela is probably one of the most well-known women and public figures in South Africa. She was the public protector appointed from 2009 to 2016 and the only full-time commissioner in the South African Law Reform Commission at the time. Of all her achievements and high-profile positions that she has held, it is the public protector position that most put her in the public eye. In 2012, she was honored with South Africa's Most Influential Women Award. Momentum Investments is proud to have her as a guest in our conference again, and we look forward to her wisdom and insights. So, over to you, Kudzayi.
Thank you, Jeanette. It is such a pleasure to be sitting here with Thuli Madonsela. You have been and still are a hero to many of us, myself included. Thank you so much for your time and for being here with us today.
Well, Kudzayi, it's a privilege to me to be here, and thank you for it.
So let me start off by asking you, how are you doing? How is the more academic life treating you and your family since you were last on our stage at Momentum Investments?
I'm living the life, as the young people would say.
Yes.
I'm back to academic life, which is where I started. I'm also back to working with civil society to help people to be their own protectors, as it were, by understanding the Constitution, advancing social justice, and holding government accountable on all issues, including corruption.
Excellent. Excellent. So what does a typical day look like for you currently? Has COVID-19 and the lockdown affected your lifestyle and your movements a lot?
Absolutely. COVID-19 did. It's getting better, but yes, there was a time when COVID-19 had affected me immensely. Firstly, my partner and I were locked down together, and we normally have our spaces and our freedom and meet occasionally. So that just changed the way we do things. But in the end, it was wonderful. My typical day, it didn't change that much, except for the exercise part. I'm up at about 3 and I pray.
3 in the morning.
3 in the morning. Because I write a lot. I read and write a lot. It's impossible during the day. After this, for example, I have a plan to mark a student script, but chances are I will struggle because during the day there's calls, there's emergency. Although, for example, I only do my emails in the morning and in the evening, but some people might need certain things to be responded to during the day. I wake up, then I pray, meditate, do 11 minutes exercise. It's not so much about super health. It's more for waking up and mental health.
Okay.
11 minutes, and then I then do a lot of reading and writing.
Let's talk about simplicity. The financial industry is not known for its simplicity. Often, products are offered with benefits that are not clear or services that come with a long list of terms and conditions. At Momentum, we try and simplify the way that we work and the solutions that we offer our clients. You are known for also supporting and advocating this philosophy. Tell us a little bit about how you view simplicity and how you simplify the world of governance, especially in your role as public protector.
Thank you. Firstly, I agree with you about ensuring simplicity, especially in the digital age. People are dealing with 1,000,001 sources of information, and anything that's complex will be forgotten. However, I do think that we have to distinguish between simplicity and simplistic, because in government, for example, you find that very complex situations are dealt with simplistically. And then instead of solving the problem, you
Yeah.
worsen it because you go for a very transactional approach
Yes.
when it's a systemic problem, and then you worsen it. And that's what has happened with equality and poverty. Simplistic solutions have exacerbated the problem. But as Pop Protect, I think like you, Momentum, we were concerned about making things simpler for our own staff
Yes.
and for those who we had to supervise. And a lot of it had to do with what really do we do? How do we do it? And why do we do it? And it became a buffer for us when, for example, we're being attacked. And then we'd say, okay, our methodology is very simple. What happened, what should have happened, is there a discrepancy between what happened and what should have happened? And if there's a discrepancy, is it a justifiable one? And if it's not justifiable, can we then call it improper conduct? And if there's improper conduct, was anybody harmed?
Yes.
And if somebody was harmed, how do we fix that?
Yes.
So that would be easier for somebody on the other side who is being told you did something wrong. If we provide the formula where they can also see this mirror to say, oh, this is what I should have done. Oh, I did it wrongly.
What do you think is important today and in the future in a post-COVID world? What can businesses do to help the economy and the average man on the street?
Well, I think business is the lifeblood of a functional democracy. Because if businesses are functioning well, they offer services that provide solutions to whatever pressing challenges a society has. And under COVID-19, I would say key to our problems is, for example, addressing inequality. And therefore, every business has to look at, yes, I'm here for profit. Anyway, the business of business is profit. We do understand that. But whilst I'm making this profit, how do I create a better ecosystem to make this profit? And I remember attending something in Europe where they were saying that Europe is helping Africa partly because Africa is a market. So I'm saying businesses should think the same thing and saying, as we emerge out of COVID-19, there's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of hunger, and a lot of anger. And businesses need to see where do they step in to help ease that pain, to help people bounce back, so that then we bounce back together, because as people bounce back faster, the market for businesses is bouncing back faster too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being the responsible citizen that you are, who lives up to the highest values, how do you think one should approach doing well while doing good? In other words, in your view, should businesses how should businesses connect making a profit with taking care of the community and the environment?
Absolutely. I would say what I've proposed to business before, I probably did propose it to Momentum when I had the opportunity, is a formula from an initiative in America that is called Just Business. They use the method similar to IKEA, and it is about making sure that as you're pursuing profit, at the core of your value system is justice. Environmental justice, justice to your staff, justice to the communities that support your business, justice to your shareholders and to your customers. So it is staff, community, customers, environment, and shareholders. Because in the past, it was always you only looking at the customer and the shareholder. But we then shot ourselves in the foot, because, yes, you make profits faster. If you don't carry too many ethical considerations, you make your profit faster. But the issue is, do you make those profits sustainably? But in a company like yours, I would suspect that there has been ethics into it, there has been sustainability, because you don't stay that long.
No, I totally agree with you. In this day and age, if you cannot take into consideration the sustainability of your business, you're just not going to make it. And actually, that moves us right along into what we do at Momentum Investments. We spend a lot of time researching, spend a lot of time and energy researching responsible investing. And where possible, we align our funds with these principles to achieve this. One of the examples we have is government-backed student housing. This shows our commitment to education and will hopefully provide accommodation to a number of students who are currently busy with their with their studies right now. What are your thoughts on responsible investing?
Well, firstly, I think it's a must. And part of the problem that we have is because there wasn't much of responsible investments in the past. Everyone was just looking at which product is going to give me the fastest profits. But what you said earlier was which one will give you sustainable profits. The truth is the one that's going to give you sustainable profits, though, is not going to move fast. But I was quite fascinated when I looked at Just Capital, their website, where they're talking about, they measure the most just companies in America.
That's a
The
nice...
100 most just companies. And most of the Silicon Valley companies like Microsoft, etc.,
all the tech companies.
Alphabet, etc., they're up there. And the interesting thing is they said when they looked at all of the companies, or I mean, Bloomberg is also up there.
Yes.
When they looked at profits, they found that actually these companies that exercise just principles did better. 56%, they had 56% better income than the others. Of course, if you're a new company, it's not going to work like that. What happens is that at first you will look like you're not shooting up as fast as the ones that are not going for being just in how you pay and treat your staff, your customers, and the environment
Yes.
and the communities that serve you. But in the long term, you're going to do better because you're more anchored. Yes.
No, we have seen this with all the underlying managers that we invest with, that they all apply ESG principles in picking companies to invest in, because in the long term, it really does make that difference in their profits at the end of the day. So that ties in exactly with what you're saying. Do you have any specific suggestions for the investment industry in general on how we can help build a better South Africa for the future?
Well, firstly, I like the fact that you, as Momentum, you are investing in student accommodation. There's a huge problem of student accommodation, with some of the students literally at some stage sleeping in toilets. And it also has implications for leveling the academic playing field. So that's a good one. But my personal interest is asking companies to probably consider an investment approach similar to Dragon's Den. I think I spoke to you about
Yes.
Dragon's Den or Shark Tank.
Yes.
Where instead of the traditional way of investing in things that are already proven, be a Joshua Doe for somebody you've never met.
No, absolutely. Venture capital, there are some funds that will provide almost like angel investing for good ideas, innovative ideas.
Exactly.
And any investor who's lucky enough to get the right one will definitely make a lot of money from that, and at the
Absolutely.
same time bringing this company up. No, I agree
Absolutely.
with you.
Then you guys can channel investors to maybe engage with community development forums in the township. For example, as a Tuma Foundation, we interact with a group in Imanzibeleni in KZN, and now we've started interacting with the Kamandi Development Forum in Stellenbosch and in Lamini, Soweto. But that's where unemployed graduates, and instead of waiting until these young ones find you as an investor, because it works with networks.
Yes.
I think the idea is, for me, take the show, have the way they take universities go to communities to say this is what we have as an offering.
No, I agree with you. Networks is everything, and access to the market makes such a big difference for ideas like that.
Absolutely.
So maybe just one controversial question for fun. There is so much good that we can celebrate in South Africa. For example, the way that the government has come to the rescue of its citizens in terms of COVID-19, protecting its citizens during COVID-19, as well as just how the community has come together and is caring for one another. But at the same time, we're still burdened with corruption and unemployment. So, if there was one thing that you could change about South Africa to put us on the right path, what would it be?
I would say that what we need to do is to be visionary. I think everything falls apart in South Africa because we go transactional. I mean, as a company, as Momentum, you don't just say, let's do 3 or 4 things that and see how they're going to work out. I mean, that's the language you hear in government. Let's do 3 or 4 things and see how this is going to work, and then we can model it. But if you run a company, you don't operate like that. If you run a company, you firstly say, what does my company
Strategy.
what should this company look like in 10 years' time?
Okay.
And in concrete terms, not strategy like in government sometimes it's
Okay.
done. In government sometimes it's just a bureaucratic thing for the Auditor General to tick, but you don't have a really an end state and say, what does this company, what would its footprint look like in 10 years' time? How much profit should it have achieved and things like that? And I think government needs to do that. We have a vision in the Constitution. Why not translate that into what does it look like by 2030 in terms of economic achievements? Firstly, wealth for all, but inclusion. Instead of just saying we want to achieve 1% growth now, but what do we want to achieve by 2030? Health, what do we want to achieve? Access to schools, digitalization.
No, thank you for those insights. I want to move on to a bit of questions on personal finance and just,
Yes.
one's career as a woman. What is the best investment in advice you ever got?
Buy your house and pay it as soon as possible. Don't pay according to the installments that the bank wants you to pay. Pay whatever you can afford, and if at any given stage you get a consultancy opportunity and you have an extra 100,000, throw it in there so that you can pay your bond ahead of time.
That is excellent. The best advice I ever got was that, you can aim to be an automatic millionaire by just automatically setting aside some savings before you actually start budgeting for it. So if it's already automatically gone, you don't even miss it, and it
Wow,
just builds up
wonderful.
as time goes on.
Wonderful. Well, something similar to that I got as an advice was always put something aside,
Yes.
and for tomorrow. And this for me helped me.
An emergency fund of sorts.
Yes.
In your view, what is the most important investment one should make? It sounds like you've just answered that question before. So let me.
Well, I think my home's a great investment, but for me, the greatest investment you can ever make as a parent and as a person is investment in education. And this is what happened with my own parents. They were not very affluent, but my mom used to say to us, I don't have anything to leave you with. The only wealth I'm going to leave you with is education. When it comes to investment in education, somebody by the name of John Daniel invested in me and others. That's why we're educated. With the University of Swaziland,
Okay.
there was this fellow who was a former South African. His mission there was nobody who has a place should end up not studying
Yes.
because there was no money. That's
Excellent.
creating an ecosystem again that will help all of us thrive, because Ubuntu is about AM, because we are. If I invest in you and you invest in me, then we will do better against anything else that stands against us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
wonderful. So, what advice would you give your younger self in terms of your finances or investments?
Well, the one advice that I would give myself, if based on a mistake I made, would be if you get into trouble, do not surrender your policies. If negotiate a repayment system. I think we were young then, we didn't know when you get into a difficult time. Like, for example, for me, it was a dual income family. When my partner passed on,
Okay.
um, I battled initially
Yes.
to keep things together, and then you just let the policy lapse. You don't talk to anybody, and it's only later that I discovered that no, you could have negotiated and you could have. So I would say to a younger person, explore all of the options, but it's always important to keep your policies, especially policies for education for your children, because education keeps getting expensive.
Yes.
But when it comes to your house, at least that's one thing that I never surrendered. And just make sure that if you come against hard times, be sure about what are your priorities.
Yeah, and you can always talk to someone and get some assistance.
Exactly.
Thank you. What, in your view, Professor, is the special something that women bring to today's corporate world?
I think they bring a mindset of justice as justice for all. And I think it comes from two ways, in that girls are just generally educated to be collaborative and nurturing. But I also suspect now that we know a lot about DNA and the codings of things that happened in the past, that even if you haven't been educated as a girl, and even if you're not a mother, if you're a woman, you have that DNA about protecting the species. You see it in elephants. You will see how a mother elephant will go and protect a baby elephant that's not hers, because it's really, I think, DNA there that says a survival of the species. How does this then help? It helps in a workplace that most women, I'm not going to say all women, but they tend to be collaborative. They tend to be empathetic in terms of their leadership style. They tend to walk in people's shoes and try then to pull out the best in everyone. And then in this country, if we look at how we ended up coming together, many of the people who firstly made inroads across color, across divisions, were women. People like Charlotte McClure, Helen Suzman, etc. Yes.
I can tell you, just looking, to see a woman rise to the stature in which you did, it does so much for any woman or young girl out there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. I suppose also that another thing, was it Northern Sutter that say women tend to be brave in a different way? We always think about bravely being brave as something that is bravado or somebody. Sometimes the Northern Sutter, they talk about a woman holds the knife um, from the sharp end of the knife. And they do, but a lot of mothers do that quietly. A lot of children grow up not understanding what parents go through to take them through life. I'm educated. I mentioned John Campbell, for example, but my father, for example, didn't want to take me through school after I had done grade 10. He thought I was finally super educated. I mean, he had done exceptionally well for himself without having seen an inside of a classroom. Always had cars. He never borrowed money from anybody. But he built those bedrooms. So he thought I could do like him. My mom, on the other hand, was a visionary and thought, no, you guys, you need to be educated. So after my father left off, my mom had to do all of the investing in us.
That's excellent. And she took you as far as she could. And
She did.
That's excellent. How do you think we can empower women more today?
I think there's two areas of empowerment. One is just empowering women to be their own liberators, which has happened over the years. Get women to be skilled, financial literacy, business literacy, leadership, to just be their own liberators in terms of, for example, being financially independent, if you talk about GBV, it's not caused by the fact that women are dependent. But being dependent keeps women trapped in those toxic relationships. If there was financial independence, it would be easier for a woman to determine that I will step out. Also, women are a buffer between abusive fathers and children. But if you yourself are financially dependent,
Yeah.
even if your husband is abusing your children, including sexual abuse, women often tend to look the other way because of financial problems. So just empowerment in all areas, um, and digital literacy, because you'll find that little boys have played with digital gadgets much
Yes.
earlier in life, and so just personal development, leadership, financial literacy.
Yes.
And I would say under COVID-19, an area that is exploding because women have been trying to carry everyone in their home, it is mental health. And if we don't deal with it, not only is it going to impact on women, it's going to impact on the next generation of people that are being brought up by people who are struggling with mental health issues. So that's personal level development. The second thing is create an affirming environment in society.
Yes.
Companies that affirm you as you are, not because you're a mini version of a man. Because if you're saying you want to be an inclusive company, but you
Yes.
expect your women to act like the guys, then you're not going to create an environment of belonging for them, but also you're not going to harvest the best out of them.
No, that's excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay.
How can women strike the balance between nurturing and taking command of their careers?
I think they can. It's a very difficult balance. I'm going to start by saying that the starting point should be men should also change. As women transform, men should change as well. And I often worry that we preach to the choir about women needing to claim their place in society, but not enough is done to help boys to deal with the identity crisis that comes with that. And sometimes language that says men are trash and things like that even muddies the waters, because
Yes.
you were brought up in one set of circumstances and then things are sliding away from you. You need to be assisted to adjust. So I would say that for me, the challenge is to make sure that as we're asking women to balance between career and family, men are assisted to be part of that balancing equation.
Yeah.
But as for women themselves, I would say, how do you balance now between being feminine, caring, and decisive, and profit-oriented, for example, if you're in business?
Yes.
Somebody once accused me of saying, "When your business, you should be." You should run a welfare organization, not
Yeah.
a business, because I was always, helping and even my charging. And then eventually I discovered that I'm a social entrepreneur, not a commercial entrepreneur, which is good. What also helped me was to end up with something that is called, others call it a life plan. Mine, I call it a life blueprint, but it just helps you to know what are the key things you exist for. So in my life blueprint is something about me and God. And then the second part is about my health. The third part is about my finances. The fourth part, no, the third part is it's relationships, family, and then the fourth part is about my finances, and the fifth part is work. So that grid is about making sure every day, whatever you do is about in what way are you pushing yourself forward in each of those, and at what stage are you only pushing one dimension of those five things and leaving one behind, and knowing that if you don't do that, you will feel unhinged eventually and unbalanced.
That couldn't have come at a better time, because it's good to understand that, like in your mid 30s, life could be overwhelming, because life with, life with young children, with work, with COVID, with health issues, with, it's that I'll take away that life blueprint and know that, you know, if you can plan it the way you have, you can actually emerge better out of it. And the other one thing that really stood out from what you've said to me today is about taking life with, you know, looking at brave, you know, to be brave differently. That is something that is profound, very, very profound. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
your insights. So we're getting to the closing of our interview, and I just want to ask you, what is your dream for South Africa in the next 10 to 20 years? Where do you think we can go as a nation, and how do we get there?
I think my dreams for this country is that it will grow to become the place of belonging that is in the blueprint, that is the Constitution, which talks about healing the divisions of the past and establishing a society founded on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. It also talks about freeing the potential of every person and improving the quality of life for all. To do that, we need sustainable development, we need businesses that are thriving, we need entrepreneurship in every corner, but we need to work together. So my hope for this country is that we're going to use this moment, like literally this moment, and the next 10 years in particular, to recognize where we are and what potential do we have, because we have great potential, to reset our sails and rebuild better together.
Excellent. Professor Madonsela, I want to thank you for your time and for sharing so much of your passions and wisdoms with us. It has been my absolute privilege to meet with you, and it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. And thank you to the audience for joining us in this conversation.